Good evening and welcome to Literature in 60 Minutes. My name is Zandile Pooe. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Tonight I am talking to an author yet again, and her name is Amanda John. She has collaborated with Unelisiwe Ndlovu, and they have put together the Financial Fitness to Financial Freedom. It is a journal, and I wanted to chat to her because we are winding down the year. And not only that, but it's important for us to get a handle on our finances. And it's something that a lot of people do not get right or seldom get right. So from next week, it's bonus season. People are going to experience, an outflow of more income than they would regularly receive. And I think it's important for us to be careful, be cautious, about how we spend our money, considering the season we find ourselves in. It's COVID. Finances have gone into disarray. A lot of people have lost their jobs. There's a lot of lack. The economy is in upheaval. Or is experiencing a downturn rather. And there just isn't enough to go around. So in the expectation that there might be tough times ahead, I think it's also important that we brace ourselves and we exercise the right kind of prudence and stewardship so that we are able to have enough. If we look at the book of or the story about Joseph and how he was able to steward Egypt's finances so that they had plenty in a season of lack. So it's important for us to learn how to manage our money, how to use it effectively, and in a way that will help us maintain our lifestyles, but also grow wealth in the meantime. So I will be chatting to Amanda right after the break. Please stay tuned.
Offering the fruits of our lips to the Almighty, the best in gospel music. Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience. Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience.
So welcome back. We are chatting to Amanda John, as I said earlier, and she is with us today to talk about financial literacy, financial wellness. She's written 2 financial journals and a book for children and how to have a good financial mindset. So I wanted to chat to her this evening so that we can get a sense of, where we are as a country, I think in terms of our financial literacy, where we are as people of the faith and how we manage our finances, but also most importantly, in the planning that is in the year ahead, what can we do better than we have done in the past? So welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Zandile.
Awesome. So finances are a tricky area for a lot of people.
Very personal topic.
Yeah, it's a trigger for some people. but I think what got you interested in financial either management or what just got you into a career in finances?
Well, I would say curiosity, just generally in financial services. I think let's start there, got me into the industry in general, because my background is actually law in terms of what I started studying first, in my first undergrad. And I think I got curious because as I continued to study, I was exposed to a little bit of financial planning and a little bit of insurance law. And I was like, there must be more to all of this than meets the eye. Do you have to be an attorney? And I was like, I want to go into insurance. I'll figure it out when I get there. And I think that's exactly what I did. Started as an advisor in the industry. And of course, very early, I was exposed to financial planning, financial advisory, which has a lot to do with financial literacy as well. So that's definitely how I tapped into it. And I think, long story short, within my career path, kind of moving from financial advisory and having studied now a lot of financial planning post-grad things, I kind of felt there's a bigger problem in the country. What am I going to do about it? Chances are I'll never go back to being a financial advisor. I want to impact financial advisors. I want to impact consumers in general. But what can I put together that doesn't require too much of my time all the time, but can get to people and can help people in the manner that I think people are needing assistance with financial literacy. So that's really what got me to say, I want to be part of the solution. I want to make the issues better. I want to make the gap just a little bit narrower, and that's how Nelly and I started working on the journal initially.
And on that subject, you partnered with Nelisiwe Mlaba,
Mbara. Now Mbara, but Nelisiwe Ndlovu, but now Mrs. Mbara.
So you partnered to write this journal together, right? And I think your first edition was in 2019. So a lot of us, for instance, don't necessarily, we associate journal with like wisdom and, nice quotes. And it's not necessarily something that we would want to substantively impact our lives outside of, the odd bit of motivation. So what motivated you to decide that the tool is going to be a journal?
So you've touched on, something about daily quotes.
Yes.
So I grew up in boarding school, and one day I need to actually tell my mom, what the journal she gave me, probably when I was 12 or 13, how it influenced the decision we made around how do we package the book to be what it is. And when I was in boarding school, I had like a daily diary. It was actually a journal of Christian faith. My mom had given it to me. It had biblical quotes for every day of the year. And I might have not used it every day, but I used it quite regularly, and regularly enough for me to know when to visit it and to know what to take out of it and what to apply in my life that I had read, from a Bible perspective, but also from a motivational perspective. And I think that has always stuck with me. And I remember when I started ideating this whole thing of putting something together, I positioned it with Nelly, in the manner of, this is how I feel about daily journals. I don't use it as much anymore, but I almost get the idea that any person who tries to do one little thing every day or every week, there's no way that consistency can't not have a positive impact, And I think at the time we were wanting to test the market. So of course, we've never written books before, but we had all the theory from the practices of being a financial advisor, both of us, and from the practices of what we had learned at school from a financial planning perspective, which touches quite a lot on different aspects of financial literacy. So we knew we've got the content, but how do we package it in an easy way that won't put too much pressure on us, but at the same time, it will be well received and it will be an exciting thing just based on the fact that people have not really seen financial literacy packaged in that manner. So that's what got us to the decision around putting that together the way we did. And we both very strongly believe in a journey, in a process, and we wanted to take people through a journey of almost like a life cycle of financial planning or a life cycle of financial literacy.
And you did that so beautifully, because I happen to have your...
Thank you. I remember meeting up with your husband to go and deliver that.
And what I also found really... not just fascinating, but really helpful in going through the journal. And I agree with the journey aspect that you're talking about, because you incorporated it in your theme as well. You speak of streets. I mean, May, April Road, and you've themed it such that someone feels it's you are in transit, you are on your journey, you are on your way. So in May, on the 1st of May, you have this note, just to give an audience a sense of what they can expect when they get one. Almost halfway through the year, a few things may have changed. Bank fees possibly gone up. Interest rates have done the same. Prices have skyrocketed and insurance has become more expensive. Is there anything that has not gone up? Anyway, your budget to the T. Always know your budget to the T. It is best compiled by noting down every cent coming in and every cent going out. So it's a great nugget, to get midway through the month, to say, oh, these are, if you're not a person who consumes maybe a lot of media news and you get to hear about exchange rates and all of these things and things that are changing in the market, this is a useful way of getting people, to memorize and to get to be aware of some of the things that are happening in the financial space. So
the interest rates. And I mean, the governor announced the, increased interest rate just 2 days ago. So, quite surprisingly, you will touch specifically on that particular daily note, because that alone, that interest rate alone, which has gone up by 0.25, literally increases everything from the food. We already know fuel prices are going up, insurance
astronomically gone up.
Have been going up literally almost like every week going up. Your debt fees are now going up. So people need to be very mindful of what are these slight little changes that tend to happen. We might not feel a very drastic impact immediately, but what else do they actually impact just generally in my budget? And what is that equivalent to on a monthly basis? Because when you look at that exercise like that, you realize it's actually quite a bit.
And it can be. I mean, depending on, for instance, your base, when you have a home and you have home insurance, when you have a home and you have home insurance, you have a car, you have several cars, you have car insurance. So it compounds ultimately, and it may be R5 for one person, but it may be, a couple of thousands for you in your case. But now 2020 happened, the big financial storm that hit everybody. It was a pandemic, but the unintended consequences of it are rippling, and its effects are just being felt more and more. As we in our country, we don't know whether we're coming out of it yet, or we are still very much in the thick of it. So financially, it impacted a lot of people negatively, and not just individuals, but businesses. And then that trickles on to individuals if you're employed or if you have a business that relies on, services from individuals. So now, with that having have happened, what advice or what suggestions would you give to people on how to possibly rein in some of the damage that has been done and try to steward their finances moving forward?
I would say people need to, I'm not going to talk about positive and negative mindsets, because the pandemic alone, it's going to be very difficult to get out of even mentally. But I think people need to have a different approach to finances now and going forward, because something like this could happen again, or something like this could be kind of drawn out for a couple of years in different ways, having different factors impacting different people in different ways. And I think the way that the journal has been set out is that more than anything, it gets you ready mentally. At the beginning, we do a lot of positive quotes, and a lot of things that remind people, whatever you do and whoever you're working on your finances with, it's all within your control at the end of the day, in terms of what you can control. And there's obviously many things that people can't control. These people who have lost their jobs, they can't control that. Of course, that's going to impact them totally differently. But I think I always say, with the little that people have, or with the reduced income that people may have based on the escalation of different fees and, inflation or whatever, or because their salary itself has actually reduced, people need to have a mindset of saying, what am I going to do now so that I don't feel the pain too much. And that has got to do with so many different things, and it's got to do with your bank fees. Everybody wants to have a black card, you know. That thing probably costs you on a monthly basis 500 Rand average. You know, it's worse if you have a credit card. It's worse if you do different type of transactions. And I think it's just a matter of saying, listen, I don't need this. I just need a normal savings account, because that's going to cost me 79 Rand, for example. I'm saving 400 and something. It's about sitting down and saying, which of my insurances am I going to review to try and reduce the fees that I pay? Personally, I've just recently changed about 2 months ago to naked insurance. I knew nothing about it, but during my hikes with different friends, one of them was like, you know, I'm not paying probably even a fraction of what I used to pay before, because you've got normal insurance, let's say averaging at 1.1. And on this particular insurance, you can easily pay 400 Rands, because when you're not driving around, you are actually not paying comprehensive insurance. You are paying standard or almost like accidental. And I know it's a process for people to understand these things very well, but I always say, ask the questions. However, Abantu won't just know what questions to ask and who they should ask these questions from. But I think things like the journal kind of expose you to the different tricks that can help you be in a better position with your finances without getting more, but rather by being smart about it and saying, what changes am I going to, you know, allow to impact me positively? I mean, when the interest rates kept going down a lot last year and the bonds started reducing and people's cars started reducing, I, for one, or we, for one, at home, started channeling a little bit more money towards the bond. You know, and if we continue on that positive trajectory, we are likely to save 2.5 years of not paying a bond compared to what we would have paid had we not applied the positive negative interest rates that happened last year. Again, I repeat, these are not easy things to understand. But I think if we are not mindful of what are all the different things that impact our finances, we will find ourselves in a situation where when a crisis happens, we don't know what we can allow it to help us do by actually reviewing our finances.
Sure. I love that. What we can allow it to help us do, because nobody, I think, you know, in maybe the skirmishing of trying to save and, you know, look at, oh, what is going to happen to us, and panic buying, amongst other things, you know, you forget to reflect on really, truly what opportunities are there in the midst of all of this commotion going on. But now I think the other important element to consider is that we've spoke, you know, I mentioned budgeting based on the quote in your journal. You've mentioned the need for good stewardship and recognizing, you know, the opportunities. I think as people of the faith, sometimes there's an element of our lives that is supernatural, right? So then there sometimes tends to be maybe an over-reliance on the supernatural and not so much a practical approach on how to get, on how to build riches and a legacy and all of those things. Sometimes there's grab it, I'll get it, you know, the Lord will provide. So how do we have people not stop believing in the supernatural, but help them get a sort of mindset? Because I love that you've done it for children. You've put together a game, I believe, as well as a handbook for children. But how do we start to look at a mindset that blends the two realms, that blends the element that I believe that I can get, you know, supernatural provision and blessing, but also how do I faithfully and prudently steward what I do have so that it gives me the same outcome, if that makes sense? Yeah.
And I think that is by taking action. You know, you can't. Okay, so I'll share a personal story. and I did share with you that I'm expecting a baby very soon. I mean, I had to go, I prayed about it and I knew we were ready for a baby. But at the same time, I knew there's a lot I'm going to have to do, or we're going to have to do to get that right. While we were praying, that it was the right timing, for us, for God, we were ready for the journey. You go and you visit a doctor, you find out what's happening with you, you get advice in terms of what you need to do. Then you can't come home and just chill. Yeah. You have to regulate your body. You have to then try out to make the baby. There's a lot of things you then do for that to happen. When it does happen, it's a part of God answering your prayer. When it doesn't happen, it's a part of God answering your prayer. Whether you were, you were doing something, either way, it's not about saying, only when you don't take action will it never happen. Even when you do take action, don't always go the way that you want them. I think what's great about being a woman of faith and being a praying woman is that you understand that better. So you are able to be a bit more patient with yourself. True. You are able to be a bit more patient with God himself. And I think even with finances, that's why I keep talking about when your mindset is in the right place, you are able to navigate things a bit better. You are able to understand that even though you are taking action and the right steps, you're not going to quickly clean up your finances in 1 or 2 months. It needs to be part of a journey. It's just a process. It is a time-consuming exercise. You have to be consistent. You have to stick it through. You have to believe that the journey you are going through, what results are you hoping it will have for you in future? Now, should you at some point in time, which it can happen, when you're cleaning up your finances, you find that your credit record or your credit status gets a lot better. Yeah. What that means is that the bank starts to say, we are able to increase your overdraft. We are able to increase your credit access. You can now, maybe it's time for you to now change your car because you've got a better credit. You can't just say, oh, it was time anyway. Let me just change my car. I was supposed to change my car in August. I'm studying. I'm not going to change my car because I've now taken on a different financial commitment that makes me commit to that journey and say, am I going to really be able to take extra, amounts on installments? I might, but I might squeeze myself. Let me focus on getting the studies done. After that, I can revisit the car conversation. So I do believe with the right mindset and in prayer and trusting that God will be with you on that journey as well, then things should work out, But like you were talking about being a person of faith is then trusting that there is a process. You stick to the process. Yes, you do it in prayer. God will help you. But I've heard so many people saying God helps those who help themselves. And I think it is the truth. God will provide, but sometimes the provision he makes for you might not necessarily stick around because of how you respond to it. Yeah. And having the right mindset will obviously help you navigate around that in a better way.
And I love what you've just said, not that, it's something that everyone can do, but the choices that we also, and the decisions we make also lead to the prosperity we get to experience. Because between a car and studies, you chose to study, which also increases your value and your earning potential. So, ultimately, you are investing into something.
Exactly.
We all know cars are beautiful. We love them. We love to drive them, and we look amazing in them and can take great. However, they are a diminishing asset. They are not something that adds to your prosperity. It might look like it at face value, but in the realer sense, you are losing than you are making it. I mean, you still have to pay petrol and all these other things. So it is quite a diminishing asset. But if we looked at how we can, build also ourselves up and how we can focus on investing in things that make us more money. I think one of the questions that I wanted to focus on is looking at the season. People are getting 13th checks in the coming week, 13th checks, bonuses, whatever. And it's going to be nice. It's going to be real for a lot of people. But what suggestions or what sort of tips can you give people how they should use that money? Because it's a window, it's a gap, and it opens you up to a decision that can be, constructive, or one that can, see you experiencing a repetitive cycle of need and want.
I think people can do so many different things when they do get a bonus, when they do get a 13th check. I recently recorded another podcast with someone, including Uneli, and I was saying, we were talking about savings, and I was saying, I save differently. I actually don't have a savings account that I can just quickly go into and grab 5 grand or 10,000 rands. But I have a reason for that. And also I made that decision understanding how it would impact me. Like I shared about the bond, I like to get rid of the big debt quickly so that it can free up a lot more of my cash. I don't want to save 500 rands. It's okay for other people, but I feel for me, that's not it. When I then contribute that 500, 800 or 1,000 rand towards my bond or my car, I'm able to pay my car off in a year less. I'm able to pay my bond off in 3 years less. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, for the, 9,000 rand bond that you have for that 3-year period. So for me, it comes to even things like for people who have children, how do you channel your extra income when it's a 13th check or a bond to negotiating with your school? Like Minake, I'm a negotiator. If I do get that 13th check or that bonus, it's a matter of saying, listen, I'm happy to pay school fees upfront for the year, but can I get a 15 or a 20% discount? Schools in general are so happy to get a payment upfront.
Exactly.
Now, if you do that, let's say with your 13th check, you got 30 or 40 grand and your kids' fees are 15,000, whatever it is, and you go and negotiate. If you really think about it, next year, you don't have the commitment of paying every month for the school fees. And this is just a typical example. Yes, it's just one of those examples in terms of how I navigate certain aspects of my finances. And I think when that happens, a person is in a better position to understand that means I've got, for example, 1,500 rands excess cash with my money the whole of next year. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to use it, towards debt? Am I actually going to save it and earn interest on it? Or whatever the case may be. And I think people need to think that way. In the journal, we actually talk about pay yourself as well. Don't forget to pay yourself. So spoil yourself, like you were saying, December. It's the truth. We all want to do something fun, and you deserve it. I think especially after such a pandemic that we've had, but just be smart about it, plan ahead. Are you okay? I thought you were frozen there. You there. Plan ahead and just be smart with your money so that you are able to enjoy your money as well. So again, there's really very many different things that people can do that can accommodate their different situations. That's one of the things personally I tend to do when I get a bit of, a whole lot of extra money. I'd rather pay off the school fees up front and actually negotiate a lower price. I will go to the office and negotiate a lower price, or I will then chuck it, into my car or into my bond, or if I have a big debt, I will reduce that debt. But again, now it says, what do you then do with the reduced installment of your debt? So if you were owing 800 a month on your credit card and you've paid a lump sum, what are you going to do with the extra 500 you're no longer paying there? So it's about understanding you've channeled this there. but this is the effect it's had. What are you going to do with that effect? So it's actually a continuous process. So I would just say to people, just be smart, be mindful of what you're doing, enjoy your money, you deserve it. That's why it's a bonus, it's for you to enjoy, but just be aware of how you can make the situation better for yourself the following year.
And I think talking about, a period going into the future, we are a country that is in a debt generally. And I think you can see it in terms of categories. The nation is in debt, companies are in debt, the people are in debt. So then it looks like we are breeding a legacy and a culture of debt moving into the future. And that speaks of generations. That speaks of posterity. So you came up with a board game for savings, I believe. So tell us more about what your objective was with that board game, and we can also just get into the conversation about teaching the next generation on how to financially, manage their money.
So this is actually the book, the children's book.
Financial fitness mindset. Yes.
Yeah. Having, again, I think you will have heard me talk a lot about where are you at mentally, how are you approaching your finance? Like all of this is also an emotional thing and a mental thing. And Uneli and I put together the kids' book, and it's got a bit of games in it already anyway. And this was really to say, are we educating adults hoping that they have an approach to how they will educate the children in their households? My son just turned 9 recently, and we wrote this 2 years ago now. Yeah, June, it was 2 years. Immediately after the journal, we actually put this together. And I think it's because I started seeing how he responds to money, and yet I had not gone out of my way to necessarily teach him certain things. But what that said to me as a parent is, Ukunga is watching and he is modeling, or rather he's learning the things I'm modeling in the household. And I was like, imagine what kind of an impact we would have on our kids if we were more intentional about what we teach them from a financial point of view. And that's why we worked on the book. And I think after we finished the book, I was like, hi, Maneli, you know what? Like a 30-second game and a snakes and ladders. Kids like playing these things. But how do we instill the behavior of a positive money mindset without always expecting abantwana to go back to a book? Most kids don't. Similar to the journal, this is the kind of book you hope a kid will go back to. But what if they've colored everything? What if they've played every game? What if they've gone through everything and they've saved on their first piggy bank and used it to go and deposit their first 800 rands in the bank account, How do we keep the conversation going? How do we keep the playfulness of learning about money going? And then we put the board games together more to say, it's important for families to make financial literacy a language at home. We don't want to just teach adults. We don't want to just teach children. We want to find a way to help these two generations be able to come together and not necessarily talk about money in a formal way. You and I know we probably never really formally did that even with our parents. So it's not an easy thing in terms of changing that cultural mindset. But people want to play with the kids. There's not enough time all the time. But when you do, how do we leave that lounge space? Having kids learnt about a tax-free savings account, having kids learnt about, exchange rates, the euro to the dollar to the rand. How does it impact you? Abantwana bethu are probably half of them are going to go overseas one day and study. Very different to what we've been exposed to and what our parents have been exposed to. So you want to make them aware that money is not just money as you understand it here in South Africa. It's got different impacts in different parts of the world. And what does that mean? So that's one of the reasons we put, the kids' book and the board games together, so that we can help parents build a generation of children that are more aware. What that means is that they are able to make different financial decisions.
Sure, that is so key, eh? Because like I'm saying, or like I introduced the subject, we are currently in crisis with the level of debt that we're in. So these lessons, I think, even if you're not modeling them, but I think it might be important for you to start teaching your kids something different than even your existing current reality, so that at least you understand that it ends with me. And then when you finally get debts and everything else sorted out, you can then practice what you preach. But, I think it's important for us to start with a new sort of slate where people are understanding just the generational impact as well. I mean, people speak of generational wealth. So if we are a subsistence people where we are living on month to month or, paycheck to paycheck, it's going to be difficult for you to even have those generational wealth conversations with your children. And
I mean, surprisingly, children understand opportunity cost without you having taught them anything. And I think, one example is 2-3 years ago, if I gave Bunga $50 and he, was like, he loves pies. And he was like, please get me a pie and a cold drink. I'm like, okay, cool. Just know that I'm hardly bringing any change back, It's like 10 rand left. He's like, no, get a pie only. I can't only have 10 rands left, And then I say to him, but that's funny because when I'm spending my money, you want the pie, the chocolate, and the Powerade, So how much change do you think I get, kind of a thing. My best friend was telling me recently that, she now gives the son a certain amount of pocket money. Yeah. And, if he breaks the phone screen, he has to fix it himself, which happened recently. And the son is like, oh, my phone broke, wara, please fix it. She's like, no. You get your money, you fix it yourself. He's like, no, but whatever. And then he actually made a decision to use the phone as it is because he would rather not spend his money. So they're very smart about money in general, but when it's their money. But how do we teach them to respect when it's our money and to understand the value of money when it comes to different needs and wants? Because half of the time it's wants, and we need them to understand that.
It is. And I think also depending on obviously your LSM, it becomes, very different as to what lessons you can impart. But I think generally it would be good to have a population or a generation of people that, I mean, if we look at countries like about Japan and China, where they have insane saving cultures, like it's a norm, the country doesn't have to worry about relying on retirement monies and all these other, sort of investment vehicles that businesses or companies use, because they have such a huge population, but also a population that saves. And we are not known for that. We don't.
Yeah, and that's just their culture.
That's just their culture. So, but its culture speaks of teaching and the people who've been
instilling the right behavior.
Exactly. So I think, like I'm saying, even if we are not in that position, it's important for us to catch it, to say, okay, this is where the key is. We need to teach young people to manage their money better, because sometimes I don't have to have learned some of the things my mother modeled. I don't do them simply because it was modeled. I will make a decision for myself to say, yeah, I see what you're doing, but I want to do it differently. Imagine all the more if they are taught differently, even if,
exactly
different as modeled. But then now the next thing is, I just want to find out what is next for you in terms of the literary works, your board games, your books. So what are you going to do next?
Yeah, I think it's digitizing. Our journal is an awesome journey You know, our kids' book has all the necessary information to invoke the right interest and curiosity and learning behaviors in children. Our board games are already a good start in terms of, in fact, our board games and some games that have been built into. So, for example, here we've got some crossword puzzles.
Yeah,
we've got what do you call it? We've got
you
a maze game, and these are things you can easily digitize. So I think the next step for us is definitely digitizing. We're really praying, we're really crossing fingers and hoping that next year we will get a bit more opportunities to partner with companies in terms of driving financial wellness. And we then believe, some of the profits that we make from driving that together with companies can help us get into a digitization of financial literacy, so digitizing our games, building some apps, building educational programs that are, virtual and all of that. So that's definitely the next step for us, because we've done everything that we can, we just need enough resources to then package things in a way that will be more exciting for the children, especially. They're always on their phones. If we can have apps that talk to financial literacy in different fun ways, then I think we will be on the right way.
Okay. And how has your existing works, how has the journal been in terms of your publications? Where is it available? Where can people find it?
So we on all the different social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, definitely LinkedIn, and it is Congealed Legacy. So the name of our company is Congealed Legacy. We will see it probably at the end of each of our books.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So if people just go, Congealed Legacy, they'll definitely get it. We do have a Pro Family digital card. Even the website itself, you can go and purchase a book, and then we just get the communication in terms of how many copies do you want, what is the total cost, you want it couriered, you want the whole package, which is a discounted rate. So on any of the social media platforms, and if people Google the name of our company or use our digital platform, which is the Pro Family card, I think I sent you a picture with the QR code.
Yes.
If people actually also scan the QR code, then it immediately takes them to our page that shows the different tools that we have. And people can make a purchase there, and we get to communicate and engage with them.
Okay, awesome. Any parting shots from your side? Any wisdom that you want to leave with the audience?
I think, with what you mentioned earlier, going into December, I just hope people do better. I know it's not going to be easy, especially considering people really lost their jobs. People's income has been reduced. People struggled last year and for the most part of this year. But perhaps people are starting to see some light. Most people did not get 13th checks and bonuses last year, to be honest. So of course, so of course they will be excited. But I just want to say, be responsible and be smart with your money, and do something that can just impact you positively in the future, even with the little that you have.
Start a business. Do something that will build your income versus diminish it. We know December's a great and lovely season, but I think it's heartbreaking. Then it's January. Soon thereafter, after the high, there is a plummet and a very low. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, chatting to people, and I am especially interested in learning about how to teach the next generation how to do better than us, because I think sometimes we are not too late in the game. Some of us are still quite young, and we still have quite a bit of time, God willing, giving us the time and the grace to teach the next generation on how to really, really build generational wealth. I think it's an important subject. It can't be something that we raise our hands to in church and say, yes, we receive blessings and wealth, and what's I think a lot of sometimes in churches, don't ask me, which churches, but sometimes in churches there tends to be this whole, the wealth of the wicked will be transferred to the, we need to also be practical about our faith and say, Lord, yes, if the wealth of the wicked comes, does it find me with the right mindset to manage and steward it for generations to come, or am I going to squander it simply because I don't have the right mindset? And I still expect after the big blessing to get another one and another one. So sometimes we need to recognize just the window of opportunity that we have, and how we.
And there's different ways to teach children. Just to share a quick personal story, Ugonga plays a lot of soccer, so he's at soccer matches most Saturdays, and I really hardly ever keep cash at home. So sometimes we struggle to make sure he's got 40 rands for 10 rand transport, and then so that he can, use the 30 rand to snack on something. And then I said to him, you know what? People like ice cream in summer. Why don't you sell? And a lot of friends like visiting him for PlayStation and for a whole lot of different things, playing soccer in the garden. So I know there's a lot of kids that come to the house like quite regularly. And I said, why don't you sell ice cream cones? Get ice cream, get cones, get those 1,000 Island things, dip the ice cream so that it looks beautiful. Yeah. He makes a lot of money on the ice cream, Wow. So like I told you, we were at home for the week. He was back here with the nanny, and I think he made about 120 rands this week alone. And an ice cream cone is $5.
Oh, cool.
So funny enough, just before we started with the podcast, he says to me, you know what, Mommy, Jabulo and I think Sia are planning to sell cold drink. And I said, really? Like Fantas and stuff? He's like, yeah, a buddy cold drink for 10 rand. And then once a week, they're going to get together. They're going to see how much they've made, and they're going to go and deposit it.
I'm telling you.
And I promise you, his friends are learning from the fact that, listen, we go to Gunga's house and buy ice cream, But what am I going to do to make sure I also earn my own money? The spirit of
entrepreneurship.
It was amazing when he shared the Fanta thing with me. He's like, yeah, Jabulo and Sia are going to start selling cold drink because it's summer. I said, that's awesome. They mustn't spend all their money. They must keep some of it, So it was nice for me to see that what he's trying to do is kind of, filtering to his friends as well. And they're like, no, man, like Unga is always on point. He's always got enough cash, So it's quite amazing. And I think those are things that we teach our children. Yeah. It's little acts, but they mean so much more in the future.
Definitely. And I just love also how it's bringing in the element of entrepreneurship. I mean, it's said that the economy rests on the back of small business. It's said that, the common phrase that is used. But when you see it starting to find its rightful application and adoption at that very young age, it shouldn't be foreign to start businesses. I mean, and I think it's also a mindset shift, because looking at how we grew up, we used to look at small time entrepreneurship or trading as you are struggling to make ends meet type of thing. Everybody was conditioned such that you need to go to university, get a job, and that's where your prosperity is going to come from. Yeah, but if you are on the side of the road, selling potatoes or whatever, or, those guys who come to the house and knock and sell you stuff, we used to look down on that. And we used to think, this is not definitely the path to wealth and riches. But I think also that mindset shift needs to happen to say, my child, when you are selling ice cream at school, when you are doing this, you're not just getting the financial reward of it, but you are also learning the principles of what it takes to make an enterprise work, or how to build an enterprise. So,
and that income is seasonal. Because when winter started, he's like, don't forget to top up ice cream. I'm like, nobody's going to come buy the ice cream. He's like, yes, it's cold. What are we going to do now? And I said, you sell hot chocolate with marshmallows on top. Listen here, they don't stop coming. So he already knows, which season he's selling what.
Yeah.
It's ice cream, and then in winter, it's hot chocolate with marshmallows. And it irritates me because I have 7 people knocking, like little kids knocking all the time.
Yeah.
But I have to just kind of make do with it because I
And
helped him make a decision.
It's building something in him that, over time, it's going to reap dividends.
It is, definitely. And now he's kind of passing it on to his friends as well, which is what I like the most, actually.
I mean, I actually also like the fact that his friends want to emulate him and his friends want to the same as, and it isn't a unhealthy competition thing, which, this one thinks he's better.
Not at all.
They come together and
they support each other.
Exactly. That's how consortiums are built. That's how companies sometimes, really come together and form something greater than it was when it began. So
exactly.
you have a great team of young'uns there, building small up and coming businesses. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. I trust and I encourage. When is your 2022 journal coming out? When are you releasing it?
Immediately next year. So we're just going to probably update a couple of things, like, probably talk a lot more around the change in interest rates, especially because it happened now. It happened a lot regularly last year as well. But we do talk quite a bit about that in terms of what should you be mindful of when interest rates, whether they're increasing or decreasing, what impact does it have? So we just need to do a couple of updates. But in January, we're going to have the next copy.
Okay, perfect. I encourage all my listeners to please, go to Congealed Legacy social media website and get those copies, especially the small handbook, the literacy handbook for your children, where teaching them something that if it's foreign to you, it will not be foreign to them. But thank you so much, Amanda. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Next up, I'm going to be closing up with you guys. So please stay tuned. I'll catch you right after the break.
Reaching out and touching you with inspirational music where it matters most. Zoe Live Radio.
Welcome back. Sure, that was such an informative session with Amanda John. I trust that you got a lot out of it. You got exactly what you needed to hear. If there was a bit of advice maybe that you were looking for, or something that you hadn't really thought about going into the December season and preparing for the coming year, and you are able to use that advice and build it into your own life, and especially financial management. But now that is it for me for this week. I trust that you will get her previous journals and also the coming journal that's going to be published in the coming year. Please don't forget, the name of the company is Congealed Legacy. You can visit their website. You can visit them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, social media, as well as LinkedIn, on the different socials. So please let's support our authors. Let's support people who are trying to increase us in the knowledge and the wisdom in areas where we do not have a lot of it. So I trust that you will have a fruitful week, though, in the coming week. And I will chat to you again, hopefully with another great and exciting author. So keep well and God bless.